Just when you thought Donald Trump's day couldn't get any worse, this happened. Russian state media is now openly mocking Trump on social media for his constant flip-flopping on Putin. And this comes immediately after the Kremlin also went after Donald Trump in a public way. And I guess my question for the Republicans out there is, where's this global respect? They said that Trump was feared by countries around the world, and it seems like Russia has no problem poking fun at him. So let's dive right into this post and we'll talk about this more. But RT, Russian state media, posted a tweet today in response to Donald Trump's Truth Social post where he basically threatens Putin, says, "I've been helping you this entire time. Now he's playing with fire." And RT said in response, quote, "Donald Trump warns Moscow, claiming Russia avoided really bad consequences only thanks to him. Putin doesn't realize he's playing with fire. Trump's message leaves little room for misinterpretation until he posts the opposite tomorrow morning." So they are pretty much calling out Donald Trump for constantly flip-flopping when it comes to Putin. And we know this to be the case. You know, one day he'll say something somewhat even a little bit critical of Vladimir Putin and Russia, and then the next day he calls Putin brilliant. We saw that during his first term. He'd say something just very slightly critical of Putin, not too much. He doesn't want to offend him too much. And then the next day he'll flip, especially after he left office. Remember when Russia invaded Ukraine and Donald Trump called it brilliant? He was complimenting the intelligence of Putin, calling it strategic genius. That brazen act of violence Donald Trump was very complimentary of, which was just so disgusting to see a former president, and now, of course, the current president, describing such a terrible thing in such a way. But when Russia is criticizing Donald Trump like this, openly mocking his flip-flopping, you know it's bad. And I think that's incredibly embarrassing for the United States, and Trump continues to humiliate us on the world stage. And I just want to show you some reactions across the political spectrum to what RT put out today. Let's start with George Conway, who, as many of you know, is a former conservative lawyer. He's now a defender of democracy, I describe him as. He responded to this tweet saying, "It's weirdly reassuring to know the Russians think he's as idiotic as we do." And we actually have intelligence to back this up, that other countries around the world feel as if they can manipulate Donald Trump through flattery, that if they're nice to him, they boost his ego a little bit, he will do basically whatever they want. He will give in to their demands. And I think it's something we see quite often, especially with these tariffs. All of these different countries will call up Donald Trump and say, "You're such a great businessman. We want to do business with the United States. You're revolutionizing things." And then the next day he drops the tariffs. And these countries know that that's the simple game you can play with Donald Trump to basically bend him to do whatever you want. The next example I want to show you is Jay in Kyiv, who's been covering the Russia invasion of Ukraine. And he didn't hold any punches here. He said Russian state media now humiliating Trump to an even higher degree than he regularly humiliates himself. And I think his description here is pretty accurate, that it is pretty humiliating as a country, as a president, as a people, to have Russian state media and the Kremlin openly mocking Donald Trump. And what are we going to do in response? Nothing, really. Donald Trump always talks a big talk, never backs it up. And Russian state media is just kind of taking advantage of that and taking some punches at Donald Trump. Here's another account that focuses more on finance, is pretty conservative, has voiced support for Donald Trump in the past, but listen to what he said. Russian state media trolling Trump for being a world-renowned bluffer. Everyone knows his hand. Zero negotiating leverage when everybody on earth knows that you are full of blank. You can read it there at the end. But exactly, you know, Donald Trump always claims that we have the leverage, that we have the negotiating power, but it's never the case because Donald Trump is a world-renowned bluffer. He'll say one thing, do the opposite. And that's exactly what's happening here. I mean, I hope that with Donald Trump's new criticisms of Putin and Russia, that action will follow. He'll actually make good on what he's saying. But Donald Trump's track record tells us a different story, where he'll say one thing and then do the exact opposite, or say one thing, say this is happening 100%, and then the next day or the next week, he just completely drops it and moves on to his next thing. And Spencer is accurately pointing out that, yeah, he is a world-renowned bluffer, and all of these countries know it. It's hard to have negotiating leverage, as Trump claims, when everybody knows your game, right? It's like trying to play poker with no poker face. That's exactly what's happening here with all of these trade negotiations and just negotiations generally that Trump is engaged in. Here's Alex Cole, who is an activist on Twitter. He said, "Holy blank, Russian state media is literally making fun of weak-ass Trump." That's so embarrassing. And as we've kind of touched on, I think this is an accurate description that it is quite embarrassing. When Joe Biden was in office, we were respected by Russia. Whether Republicans, say it or not, Russia knew not to mess with the United States. When we set a hard line, when we were negotiating, we meant it. We stuck by our word. We put it to Putin constantly. Putin says, hey, don't help Ukraine. You know what Biden said? Don't tell me what to do. We'll fight for democracy. We'll fight for our allies. He did it. Donald Trump, on the other hand, again, world-renowned bluffer. World-renowned bluffer who doesn't make good on his promises. So it is embarrassing. We went from the United States being really hard on Russia, pushing back on the Kremlin, to basically giving them, free reign under Donald Trump. It's really, really sad. And this is not the only example of RT making fun of Donald Trump. They continue to do this. This is not a one-off. For example, recently, RT put out another post saying Trump zeroes in on possible sanctions against Moscow as frustration grows. The restrictions will not include banking institutions. Will another call with Putin cool his jets? Again, they're mocking Donald Trump, saying, Putin just has to hop on the phone with Donald Trump and he'll be all right. Because it happened again before. Donald Trump says something, he calls Putin, and then he's like, well, maybe I don't like that idea anymore, and he switches up. Here's another example of RT criticizing Donald Trump and his comments just the other day when he was calling Putin crazy on the tarmac in an impromptu press conference. RT said, quote, Trump says not happy with Putin for shooting rockets into Kyiv. I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. No word on Ukraine's massive 788 drone strike on Russia. Of course, there's a lot of misinformation just in what RT posts, so take everything with a grain of salt. And matter of fact, just believe the opposite. But of course, there's no word on that because Ukraine is defending themselves. So I don't know what the goal is here. But once again, they're going at Donald Trump and openly criticizing him. And Russian state media is not hiding. They're not, hiding their allegiance to Russia. They're very open about it. And as I said before, this comes immediately after the Kremlin also called Donald Trump emotional following his criticism of Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin claimed Donald Trump was showing signs of emotional overload after he called Putin absolutely crazy. Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesman, said the comments were connected to an emotional overload of everyone involved. So we have Russian state media calling Donald Trump's bluff, saying that tomorrow he's going to be positive on Putin. We have the Kremlin saying that Donald Trump is experiencing emotional overload. And the Republicans want us to believe that Donald Trump is respected, that this is the negotiating king. The art of the deal is apparently going to come through for the United States. Give me a break. We have Russian state media mocking the United States president. And I want to stress again, this didn't happen under Joe Biden. It happens pretty consistently under Donald Trump. And that's the difference. So anyway, I just wanted to show you this. It's currently going viral on social media, as you've seen from all of those different responses. People are really catching on to what's taking place here, but I'll leave the video here. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to subscribe down below. It goes an incredibly long way. Also drop a like on the video and comment. Let me know what you think about this story. Let me know what you think about these posts. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.